the 20th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the New York Giants select Kadarius Toney, wide receiver, Florida.
Well, there it is. I thought they might try and get a weapon. They traded back and were still able to get a very talented player, Kadarius Toney. One of more dynamic players in the entire draft. He's built like a running back. He's got running back skills when the ball is in his hands.
And we welcome you to Big Blue Draft Night Live, presented by VanHeusen. Bob Papa, along with two-time Super Bowl champion Carl Banks and Super Bowl champion Sean O'Hara. The Giants have gotten their wide receiver, although it comes at 20, not at 11, as Kadarius Toney is a member of the Big Blue. And Carl, it's been a pretty eventful night so far. The Giants trading back from 11 to 20. They're going to get the Bears' first-round draft pick next year, their fourth-round draft pick next year, as well as a fifth-round draft pick this year. They bring in a skill position player, which is what we thought they were looking for in this first round.
Well, you know, obviously the apple of everyone's eye were the two Alabama wide receivers, so I'm sure if one of those guys were available, they would have jumped right on that. But things didn't happen that way, and that's why they have draft boards, because they knew if those guys were gone, they had a next in line.
Sean, talk a little bit about Kadarius Toney, and wide receiver out of Florida, dynamic playmaker, and the Giants add more team speed.
Yeah, well, to quote one of your favorite bands, Tony, if you're Daniel Jones and Jason Garrett right now, it feels good. And I think when you look at what he can do after the catch, look, we talk so much about wide receivers and their catch radius and their ability. What this guy can do after he catches the football, it's phenomenal. And he's too hot to handle, too cold to hold. This guy can get free in a phone booth. So I'm really excited. I think Giants fans are going to be really excited to see what he does in making guys miss. He's also a special teams guy, Bob. So how many times have you heard Joe Judge talk about versatility? What else can you offer us? He's not just an offensive weapon. This guy can return kickoffs. He can be a punt returner. He was all SEC as a punt returner. So you could see the highlights right here, the shiftiness. Look, he's like a rubber band with the way that he can change direction, zig and zag. I think he's going to be an unbelievable weapon for Jason Garrett to find a way to move around. You pair him with Galladay, with Darius Slayton, with Shepard. The speed right now on offense on the perimeter just got a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, the Giants adding a weapon in Toney here, and we're seeing some of his highlights. And, Carl, it's about making big plays. It's about creating opportunities for Daniel Jones, who's going into year number 3. You're hoping Saquon Barkley remains healthy, and if he does, you take a look at what this team can do, and they can attack you from a lot of different places.
They can, Bob, and the thing is, when you believe in your quarterback and you're doing everything you can to put a supporting cast around him, and in today's NFL, the more weapons you have on offense, the more dangerous you are. And, you know, Sean, I was looking at this stat sheet you gave me. He forces a missed tackle, talking about Toney, 30% of his touches. So when he gets it, he has the ability to make people miss.
Yeah, that's something you can't coach.
No, you
right?
can't.
I mean, you either have that elusive ability or you don't. And I think when you just look at him in space, you know, I think back, if you're a Giants fan right now, look, not since Odell Beckham Jr. had you had a receiver that could just be that dynamic and take a slant 66 yards to the house. It's been a while since we've had a receiver that can do that and just kind of create instant offense.
All right, let's talk about what sort of has gone down in this draft as we look at more Kadarius Toney highlights out of the University of Florida, who the Giants take with the 20th pick overall in the 2021 NFL Draft. You know, this was a situation here where, you know, a guy like Toney, he's a playmaker. Everybody thought going into this draft that the Giants were looking to add a playmaker on offense, and they wind up adding a guy like this. You know, for Jason Garrett now, he's got 2 tight ends. He's got Evan Ingram. He's got Kyle Rudolph, who's an experienced tight end. You know, let's not forget about Slayton, and then you add Galladay. You still have Sterling Shepard. I mean, they can hit you from all different angles now.
Yeah, it's a matchup issue for defenses now, and that's what you want. When you have guys that are interchangeable, all guys with speed, it's just hard to match up when you can line up and pick the mismatch. If you're Daniel Jones, you can say, oh, well, this guy, they're going to put this guy on our tight end. Well, this guy's going to be wide open. You can't double all of them.
You know, as Giants fans that were probably sitting here in the draft and looking at 11 and saying, all right, who are we going to take, who are we going to pick? If you would have told Giants fans that you could come out of the first round with a playmaker like Kadarius Toney and a future first-round pick, I think they would have taken you up on that offer.
So let's talk about sort of what transpired. What led us to the Giants taking 20th overall? I think that Jalen Waddle, when he went as high as he went, was an indicator, number one, that, hey, Waddle's off the board. We know that this is a player that the Giants really like. And then everybody thought that Denver was going to be looking for a quarterback because Justin Fields and Mac Jones were still on the board. Now, there are some rumors going on that Aaron Rodgers could be on the block. Maybe Denver is, sniffing around that way.
I'll take rumors for 500, Bob.
But the minute that the Denver Broncos did not take either Fields or Mac Jones, and they wound up taking Patrick Surtain, that's a player that the Cowboys wanted.
Yeah.
So now Dallas, I think Micah Parsons, with some of his off-the-field issues, I think that was probably a guy that was not on the Giants' board.
Well, let me be frank about it. If you've just gone through a DeAndre Baker situation, you're going to be risk adverse, even with the slightest of red flags. See, because the character and the success have to kind of match each other. And if you don't, and you've had those history of recent history of a guy that just went the wrong way on you when you didn't think the red flags or the mild flags would pop up, you have to be risk adverse, especially with the type of culture they're building here.
Sean, the other thing was, I think with the Cowboys probably knowing that Micah Parsons was not someone that the Giants were going to take, they could make that trade with Philadelphia, knowing that just going to 12, the linebacker's still going to be there. Smith winds up going to Philadelphia. When you look at Philadelphia's quarterback situation, when you look at some of the other issues that they have on their team, did the Dallas Cowboys, as part of their thinking, say, Devontae Smith on the New York Giants is a greater threat to us, the Dallas Cowboys, than he's going to be to us with the Philadelphia Eagles, based on the lack of things that Philadelphia has right now?
Yeah, I mean, it could have played into their decision making, but I think for them, just the opportunity to move back once their guy at corner was no longer there was interesting. I think, for the Giants, the person that they didn't take at 11th, I think speaks volumes about where they're at right now, and that's Rashawn Slater. A lot of people, Daniel Jeremiah tonight talked about the fact that he thought he was the best left tackle in this draft, ahead of Penei Sewell. So the fact that he was available there and the Giants didn't take him, I think speaks volumes of both Nate Solder and Matt Parrott, that they feel pretty solid about what we have at right tackle.
Yeah, and then, Dave Gettleman, never trading back. Obviously, the Giants, along with Gettleman and everybody else who was in that war room, was ready, because not only did they trade back, but they wound up getting a fifth-round draft pick this year, and they've added a first-round draft pick next year and a fourth-round draft pick next year, and they got a skill position player at 20. So they were ready for what was going down. If their couple guys were off the board when they picked, there was a plan, and they were matched up with a team, and they've moved back.
And the operative word there was plan, because you can't obsess over who's boxing you out for your pick, and you can't run a draft saying, well, I got to keep these guys from this. You got to know what you want. You got to know what makes your team better, because you got to go out and field the team. So keeping someone else from getting someone is not necessarily beneficial to what you want to accomplish.
I think the other interesting thing with this is you've got some players that opted out, so that they didn't play last year. If you're a team and you're going to invest an 11th overall pick, a first-round pick on a guy who didn't play a single snap last year, now the learning curve gets even bigger, and it's even more accelerated. So by moving back, now you take a guy in Toney who played last year and who is ready to rock and roll, and you don't have that, all right, look, we're still going to be virtual with OTAs, possibly not even be able to get on the field with some guys until training camp, if that does happen. You haven't put yourself or that player behind the 8 ball.
Now, there were some pass rushers on the board that the Giants could have gone with. The kid out of Michigan that's
Kwity Paye.
Yeah, wound up going to the Indianapolis Colts. I don't think, because of the acquisition of Golladay and with Slayton and having Sterling Shepard, I think the Giants, however their board was stacked, obviously this kid Toney was high on their board, because I don't think it was a pressing need to take a wide receiver. He must have been graded higher than some of these edge rushers.
Yeah, I think graded higher. I think, clean medically. I know that's been a big component of it. You look at some of the pass rushers, Azeez Ojulari being out there, and look, he led the SEC in sacks last year with 8.5. Obviously, the connection with Kirby Smart down there in Georgia, you thought that might be a possibility. You mentioned Kwity Paye, and then once Jalen Phillips went off the board, the stud from Miami, I think they were probably looking at, all right, let's see who's here right now that we thought was going to be gone, and Tony must have been one of them.
And if you can put points on the board, that's what this league is about. I mean, there is a blueprint for that. If you can score points in this league and you do it with multiple positions, you have an advantage.
The one thing that the Giants, and you guys saw it firsthand, struggled in the red zone.
Yeah.
Finishing drives. How do we score points? Well, if you get a guy in Tony that can create space with speed, Kenny Golladay, what he can do with his catch radius and his leapability, and then what Kyle Rudolph has done in the red zone throughout his career.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the production right now should be through the roof.
And we also get so excited because the run-up to the draft is months and months and months, and it's talked about and it's analyzed. You get to the first round, the pick is made, and there's this feeling of elation for fans and for even us in the media. We're dissecting all this. It's a 7-round draft.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a lot of good players that still are to be had. What do you think the focus is here now moving forward for the Giants as we get into the next couple rounds?
Well, I think you look at this draft, and I know they did, and they see where the surplus is. There's still offensive linemen. There's still linebackers in this draft. So they're going to still fill some areas. And let's not discount the value that the Giants got late in the draft. I mean, they got a lot of production from guys that were drafted very late.
Yeah, the draft class last year, I mean, all the way from Andrew Thomas at 4th overall down to Tay Crowder, Mr. Irrelevant. They got contributions, Cam Brown, Carter Coughlin, Darnay Holmes. So no doubt they're going to be looking for those versatility guys. You mentioned the interior offensive line. I could see them going that route with a guard or a center, somebody physical to create some more competition up front. But I also think when you look defensively, I don't think they're done for going after pass rushers. I think that there's some good players that they could get in the 2nd round, 3rd round, and then I'll be honest with you, I could see them going running back at some point because there are some good running backs later on in this draft. With Saquon coming off of injury, and they brought in Devontae Booker through free agency, but there's still room for them at running back.
And with this trade that they made tonight in picking up, the 4th round pick for the Bears next year along with their 1st round pick, it does give them a little bit of flexibility. Plus, they got the Bears' 5th round pick from this year. It does give them some flexibility in rounds 2 or 3 if there is an edge rusher, or if there is another corner, or if there is an offensive lineman that they really love. Now they got a couple extra picks that they can then package off to move up a few spots to get somebody.
Sure, and also let's also keep in mind rounds 1 through 3 are all expected to be starters in this league. If you're drafted in the 2nd round, the Giants are still drafting a projected starter.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, and obviously Kadarius Toney is the big story tonight as the Giants trade back from 11. They draft at the 20th spot after the trade with the Bears, and they get a talented wide receiver and really an athlete. I think that's a good way of putting it.
That's what they label him down in Florida because he was a quarterback in high school. He could basically do it all. They said he had the strongest arm on the team, which is saying something because Kyle Trask can throw the rock.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to be interesting. We're going to hear from Kadarius Toney momentarily. We're just trying to get him up, but yeah, we're waiting. We're going to get Kadarius Toney up for you at some point here. But it's interesting too because when you think about Daniel Jones and you think about the Giants organization, year number 3 for the quarterback is a very important year. We saw it last year with Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Josh Allen. Do they make that step from year 2 to year 3? Are you convinced as a franchise that your quarterback is really your long-term solution? 2 of the guys last year proved that. This is a big year for Daniel Jones.
So, yeah, and Sean, can you take us through that maturation process of a quarterback from where the bullets are flying his rookie year to the 2nd year into the 3rd year?
Yeah, look, I'll go back to Eli's rookie year. Kurt Warner starts off the season, and he's 5-4. He's still a little bit bitter about that benching, so don't bring it up when you see him. But I just remember Eli coming in and running the offense, and at that time it was John Huffnagel was the offensive coordinator. Kevin Gilbride was the quarterback coach. And then the next year they made the move. Huffnagel stepped aside, and Gilbride took over as the offensive coordinator. And you could see in year 2, it was still Kevin Gilbride's offense, and every once in a while Eli would have some input. But by year 3, Eli kind of became a little bit more verbal, a little bit more demonstrative. That hey, you know what? Look, this is the play that I really like. I like this route combination. Here's the way that I see this happening and transpiring, or here's how I want to call this, or here's how I want this formation to look. So, in your 3rd year, I think as a quarterback, you kind of start to own the offense. Now for Daniel Jones, this is year 2 of this offense with Jason Garrett. So no doubt, he's been in watching film. He's been talking with Jason Garrett. They've been tweaking things together, trying to figure out, all right, what do we need to add to the offense? What can we take away to make it cleaner, to make it easier? The first thing that comes to mind, Carl, and you saw this, firsthand on Sundays, is they've got to figure out some protection issues. Mm-hmm. Too many times there was an unblocked defender, whether it was coming off the slot, whether it was a tight end not fanning out, whether it was a running back not on the same page with the offensive line. So that's up to Daniel Jones as well as Nick Gates, the center, to make sure that you guys are all on the same page and everybody knows exactly who the mic is and who we're sliding to.
I've got a tweet here.
All right.
A little quote here from Nick Saban, who pursued Kadarius Toney and knows about him a little bit. And he said, I'll read you the quote from Nick Saban. Outstanding high school player. His quickness and ability to run, jerk routes, and change direction, get in and out of breaks is fantastic. I just think he's a really complete player as a receiver, especially when he's in the slot. He's a difficult matchup, creates a lot of problems. We'd have loved to have had him here. I can tell you that. So
well, there you have it. You've got an endorsement from the best coach in college football and one of the best recruiters, if not the best recruiters of talent.
And just think of that. He's saying we would have loved to have him here. You had Jalen Waddle and Devontae Smith, and you're saying, bring him on. I'll take another guy.
Yeah, so, hey, the Giants have drafted a guy that can add to this offense. It really is going to be interesting to see. And just kind of going back to the Daniel Jones conversation, too. Tough to get a read on him from his 2nd year in the NFL. When you have a complete change in coaching staff and a new offensive system comes in and Saquon Barkley gets hurt, there were a lot of things kind of working against him, not to mention the virtual, having to learn. Year 2 in this system, understanding how to do virtual learning. There'll be more in-person stuff as we get closer toward the season. Let's not forget what Daniel Jones did as a rookie. I mean, 24 touchdown passes, 12 interceptions, 3,500 yards, set an NFL rookie record for the most games by a rookie quarterback with 3 or more touchdown passes and no interceptions. I think people forget about how good Daniel Jones' rookie year was, actually.
Yeah, he threw more touchdowns than Kyler Murray did, and Kyler Murray went number 1 overall that year.
Yeah, and here's the other thing, too. He didn't have a receiving core, a healthy receiving core, all year. It was a revolving door. He didn't have a full complement of receivers.
Yeah, so it's an interesting dynamic, and obviously with Barkley on the road to recovery and being healthy, that's going to be a big factor as far as this flow. You mentioned running back. What are your thoughts as far as the need for running back? Why do you feel that way?
I think in this NFL era right now, you're seeing teams with not just 2 running backs. They have 3-headed monsters. Look at the Patriots and the way that they have just kind of regurgitated running backs throughout the game. And it's you get one series here and then you're rotating. So I think it's to keep these guys fresh. Obviously for Saquon coming off of an ACL injury, I think that could prolong his career and help him out. So I think it's a no-brainer. Devontae Booker, I think, is a very good running back. He's a solid player, and he can do a lot of damage out of the backfield as a receiver as well. So I just think that's going to be a big part of the offense. And I think when you get a young, fresh running back in, you need somebody to kind of help get the defense ready too for Sunday. So I think that's definitely a need. I think when you look at Daniel Jones and last year, to me, it was the tale of two halves, right? The first half of the season, I thought the offense really struggled with getting out of their own way. The second half of the season, totally different. You mentioned his rookie year and some of the good plays. Look, I go back, and Carl, when you were a player too, it's like, okay, in the offseason, when we start our self-scout, let's start with the Super Bowl champs. Who won the Super Bowl? Okay, did we play them? Well, the answer for the Giants is yes. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers won. You guys, Monday Night Football right here at MetLife Stadium, you go back in your mind to those throws. I think of the throw that Daniel Jones made to Golden Tate in the back of the end zone. An unbelievable throw. I mean, only he could get it.
It's two Daniel Jones fumbles in the third quarter that flipped that game around.
Yeah. They were beating the Super Bowl champs at one point. And then I think about the wheel route to Deion Lewis against the linebacker, Levante David, I think it was, who was covered him. It was a great throw. It was in the, just over the shoulder. It was a touchdown. You look at some of those throws and you say, okay, the kid hung with, the Super Bowl champs, and you look at the way the Giants hung with that, they're not that far away.
Yeah, and you know what? It's kind of a fine line. When you are playing at a team that is your, projected Super Bowl winner or deep playoff contender, and you're competing, it gives your team kind of a sense of confidence. Even if you don't win that game, you're saying, if we did X, Y, and Z, we win this game. And you can say, well, Brady wasn't at his best, or this one wasn't. There was a reason why he wasn't at his best, because you were playing better. And so that is where I think the confidence this team can take into this offseason and into next season, knowing that they can compete. And that was with the exception of one game, this team competed in every single game, as bad as they were.
Yeah.
Caleb Farley, by the way, went to the Tennessee Titans. So he goes with the 22nd overall pick. He was somebody that people had lined up with the Giants cornerback spot, but I think when you take a look at the medical situation that he's dealt with multiple back surgeries, just too risky to take.
Yeah, I mean, when you're picking in the first round, you try to get the guys that don't have extensive medical histories, because it becomes a maintenance situation from the beginning.
And, the other thing about it is every team's, just like every team's board is different, all 32 teams, and every team's background checks are different, red flags. Every team's medical red flags are different. I mean, it's the famous story about Rob Gronkowski, who didn't play his senior year, had multiple back surgeries. Hall of Fame general manager Bill Polian said, Gronkowski was not on my board. He said, hey, it's one of the big mistakes that we made, and one of the big mistakes I made in my career, but he wasn't on our board because of the multiple back issues and the back surgeries and the fact that he didn't even play the year leading into the draft. Sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong.
Right. And it's something that he dealt with throughout his career too, the back.
It was a maintenance issue.
He retired the first time.
Yeah.
It was a maintenance issue from the minute he walked through the door.
But, it worked out, but there's a load of cases of guys where, we've had instances where it doesn't work out.
Bob, you mentioned Caleb Farley going to the Tennessee Titans. He's filling the void that Adoree Jackson left behind by coming here to the Giants. So, good pickup for them.
All right, we are joined right now on Giants Big Blue Draft Night Live, presented by VanHeusen. We welcome in the Giants' first-round draft pick, Kadarius Toney. Kadarius, Bob Papa, along with two-time Super Bowl champion Carl Banks and Super Bowl champion Sean O'Hara. Congratulations on being selected by the Giants. What were your thoughts when you heard your name called?
I was just honestly thankful, really, just for the opportunity. I ain't gonna lie, I'm just thankful, just for somebody just taking a risk. You know what I'm saying? Not even taking a risk, but giving me an opportunity. That's all I pretty much need, to just show, what I bring to the table, every play, every day.
Well, there are some highlights that looks like you controlled by an Xbox joystick there, and you make a lot of people miss. Can you take us through that process of when you get the ball in your hands?
My mindset is really to score. Every time I touch, that's my mindset. So whatever I gotta do, if it's skinny dip, you know what I'm saying? At 12 o'clock at night, I'm gonna try to go do that.
I mean, look, Kadarius, welcome to the New York Giant family. Look, the speed, the acceleration. Carl mentioned it. It's like you're pressing R2 on the remote every single time. You got that juke move. Is that something you practice? Is that something you just visualize, or is it something you're out there doing pregame and in practice trying to invent new moves?
I'll say really some of everything. Like some stuff that I do in the game, like I never probably did before, like at practice. You know what I'm saying? Like some things I imagine before I do it. Some things that just like happen in the moment, like more like just reaction, I guess. Like it's really all of the above.
Kadarius, did you have a lot of interaction with the Giant brass in the lead up to the draft?
Yeah, leading up, I had like a few like Zoom calls, like consistently. You know what I'm saying, with the GM and the head coach. You know what I'm saying? I found the interest at a like high peak in a way. So you know what I'm saying, I had my like eyes locked in on them, man. Like wherever they was moving to, like pick 20, like you know what I'm saying, wherever they was going, I had my eyes on them. Like you know what I'm saying, like I know who, you know what I'm saying, who was like really interested in me and who wasn't.
So what can the Giants teammates, your new teammates, expect from you walking through the door?
Really just a lot of plays, I guess, like playmaking ability, gonna just be through the roof, just accountable, responsible, and like just a great teammate, like supportive.
Kadarius, listen, you're not just a receiver, and I think you mentioned Joe Judge, and you're going to hear this a lot from him, versatility and what else can you do. So describe yourself as a punt returner or a kick returner, and would you rather take a reception to the house or would you rather take a return to the house?
Really, like as a player, I'm probably just real dynamic, but really I feel like return game is probably like the best part of the game. I ain't gonna lie, like receiving and stuff like that's, you know what I'm saying, that's what you see all the time. But the rare plays on special teams, like I like making those because, you know what I'm saying, like a lot of people don't pay no attention, but when you make the play, like it's, you know what I'm saying, very noticeable. Like
Kadarius, final question from us here in the studio in East Rutherford. What is your message to all the Giants fans that are watching right now on Giants.com, the Giants YouTube channel, the Facebook account for the Giants? What's your message, your first message to the Giants fan?
Really, for me, it's going to be, I'm like 100% every day. Like every time y'all see me, it's going to be 110, 100. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I expect like the same from as far as supporting the team, not even me, just supporting the team. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just want a lot of support because I feel like without that, like as players, we really aren't that much. You know what I'm saying? So I'll say that's like support us the same way. You know what I'm saying? Like every time, consistent.
All right, Sean, I know you have one more. You always like to get the last one in.
Kadarius, listen, I got to ask you because you're about to blow up, you know, like Biggie Smalls. I see Joker right here. All right, that's your rap name? Tell me about it.
Yeah. This is my music. I make music on like basically just a hobby. You know what I'm saying? It's just something I do. I enjoy doing. You know, so I got a passion for it, but it don't really compare to football at all.
Hey, did you have the best arm on the Florida team?
Yeah, my eyes. They asked Felipe. Felipe might get mad about that, but yeah.
What's your longest throw to date?
60. I threw 60 on the knee.
Jason Garrett loves that.
Yeah. Don't start giving away the gadget plays yet.
Kadarius, we appreciate a couple of minutes. Congratulations on being the 20th player selected overall in the 2021 draft and a new member of the New York Football Giants.
Thank you. I appreciate y'all.
Welcome.
Looking forward to meeting you in person. Kadarius Toney, selected by the Giants. Pretty awesome stuff. What was it like for you when you got drafted?
Oh, I was thrilled. It wasn't quite
like
to the level that we're seeing now, but, you know, knowing that you're drafted and probably shocked, to be honest with you, I was taken third overall, and I was just hoping to get drafted.
You said you were sitting with your coach, right?
Yeah.
You were like, man, what's happening? Oh, I'm the third overall pick? Wow, what happened?
Rings early.
These guys are all at draft parties.
Yeah.
That's how Carl's just chilling. How about Kadarius Toney? We're number one in college with the new rule now. He might be able to get his number one.
I don't think number one is available with the Giants. I don't think number one.
I'll let you handle that.
I don't think number one. I think Don Sperling.
I'm not old enough.
Hey, Giants fans, we got a little nugget for you as well. With Dunkin' delivering from more locations than ever before, it's now easier to get your faves fast with coffee, donuts, sandwiches, and more brought directly to your door, which is great if you don't plan on leaving the house at all today or you have a draft to prep for. Price and participation may vary. Exclusions apply. America runs on Dunkin'. All right, so what do you look for the Giants to do early in round two?
I think it's going to be a defensive player, probably an edge player, like Sean said, because that's where the value for those guys are. None of these guys were projected to be high first-round draft choices, so I'm sure in that second round there's going to be some talent there.
Yeah, I'm with you. I see defense here. We've got to figure out some addition to the front. I think the secondary is set. We're pretty good there, so go after some defensive guys.
Yeah, and you're going to get some hungry players because every year there's about 45 guys that are projected to be first-round draft picks, and the last time I checked, it's a finite number. There's only 32 of them, so you get some hungry players. Hey, Giants fans, want to remind you that throughout the course of the draft, make sure you go to Giants.com and all the Giants media platforms for the latest on each and every pick that the Giants make, interviews, reaction. And don't forget, on Friday night, once the Giants make their pick in the second round, once they make their pick in the third round, we will be back up and ready to bring you all the instant analysis. So for Carl Banks, Sean O'Hara, and our entire crew, I'm Bob Papa. Thanks for joining us for Big Blue Draft Night Live, presented by VanHeusen.